G'day and welcome to another week of SPCs Unleashed. And we're back for, I don't know, this is like the fourth or fifth episode in this season where we're playing in facilitation. We decided to let ourselves be geeks a few weeks ago and we'll go, oh, what are our favourite tools for remote facilitation? And then we spent a whole episode with Ali talking about how cool his desk was with his mobile media lab. And we've got to have another whole episode for software, and we'll make Ali deal with it this time. So, Ali, over to you.
Exactly. Thank you very much. And hi, everybody. Yeah, we nerded out. We nerded out big time. But the thing is also that we just, we carried away. We were carried away because I think it's just it becomes a little bit of a passion over time to tweak things a little bit and with that create a better working environment either for workshops or for trainings. And it just you just get carried away. You figure out new tweaks, new adjustments, and at least that's what I really loved about it. So while last time we really talked about hardware, I think we should have been sponsored by companies like Elgato and Logitech because we talked a lot about them, or at least their products. So today we're going to talk much more about the software that we use, software configurations, and so forth. So in this show, ladies and gentlemen, what you'll see is sort of a true distillation of many years of experiences, experiences where we try to host workshops or trainings online, and to do it in a way that is more than just Microsoft Teams and sharing your screen. So we've seen that, we will see that, as a matter of fact, after years of experimentation, we got to understand that our currency in fantastic online meetings is actually not really fancy hardware. It is actually patience and creativity. And so we'll see that Mark is going to talk about good preparation and good integration. We'll see that Stephan is going to talk about good preparation and optimizing for the sort of the most constrained participant. We'll hear Nico to talk about good preparation and having a sort of a preparation sidekick. Well, and guess what I'm going to talk about. So let's just start just directly deep dive into what is really sort of tickle your fancy in this topic. I'm going to start with you, Mark. What is your true passion?
Look, for me, it's variety. And I'm actually going to go to a physical workshop to illustrate. Many years ago now, I went to the alpha of the SAFE RTE course in Denver. And it was just after the SAFE people had all gone on training from the back of the room training. And they got all excited about the training from the back of the room techniques. And so the alpha of the RTE course was like the first time where they'd gone crazy with TBR. But the only real TBR technique that they'd connected with was building posters. And so we're in this 3-day course. And by the end of the first day, I was calling it the Build a Poster course, because it felt like we'd sit down for 5 minutes and they go, now build a poster of this. And then we'd sit down for 5 minutes and they go, now build a poster of this. And I got so sick of building posters. And I think if you want a great workshop, you want a great virtual training event, you've got to have variety. It can't be always do the same thing, because it doesn't matter how clever that thing feels with your hardware and software geekery. If it's always the same thing, people switch off.
Indeed. And it's there's no novelty in it anymore. It wears off so quickly. So I'm very curious about sort of your tricks on how you make sure that the tricks and the trickery do not wear off. But moving on to Nico. How about you? What is your sort of passion, special moment?
Yeah, so in my case, in this part of the world, I try to be serious. So I'm more Swiss than Greek in such events. So I want that things work out. So that's why I have a less long tool list in it, because I want to master the tools I'm using. And so one special moment was in a case where it was a training in the beginning of COVID, and Miro had to shut down. So while we were training the people, Miro didn't work for whole Europe. I get some Slack messages in the background. So, in my training, Miro isn't working. How's it with you? And then we realized, oh gosh, it's a major failure. And while my colleague was just showing slides, it was a safe training, yeah. While she was showing slides, I prepared in the background a backup tool. It wasn't one I used more a lot, but it was one I was somehow skilled. And so while she was showing the theory, I prepared the whole exercise again in a Google Jamboard, which meanwhile doesn't exist anymore, because they said, yeah, go to Miro, go to Lucid Spark, whatever. So usually I have always a backup tool, which I'm not so skilled in, and a good tool where I'm skilled of. And then we switched to the Jamboard. One participant wasn't able to use it because of restrictions from the company, but all were able to be in a group, in a breakout group, doing it. And then I was the one showing slides. And when we came back, Miro was back. And everything, even the old exercise, was back in Miro. And the participants was, wow, that's cool. So we didn't realize something was down. And it wasn't magic that the things come back to Miro. We have been always two trainers in remote setups. And we had, in the beginning, at least, always a technical facilitator. So when I have a training around 15, 20, 25 people, we thought people maybe will need somebody helping them with the tools in the background, because not everybody is skilled. And so our tech facilitator, his job was just move everything back to Miro, just type the post-its again if there's no conversion. And at the end, yeah, they didn't realize that there was a downtime of Miro, and it was really a cool moment, because it was also the highlight for the people. So, okay, we need more than just one tool or one environment. We need a variety also in the tool set. And so that was a really special moment, because, yeah, it was a cool service for the people.
Yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it, indeed, if we're hosting, if we're hosting a training in just a physical, classroom training, if the electricity runs out, I don't know, the lights shut down, the screen shuts down, or whatever, I'm very sure that we could still continue nicely with just a marker and with a flip chart, or those kind of analog tools. Being dependent on these software platforms does introduce a certain risk. That's absolutely true. Yeah. Thanks, Nico. And how about you, Stephan?
Yeah, look, life teaches you a lesson or two. And as the old dog in this room, I'm still learning new tricks. But all dogs have an attitude of, if there's a shortcut, you try to take it. So if it helps, use it. That's my attitude. But how do I keep focus? And that's probably my biggest challenge when it comes to the facilitation. You already mentioned that. There's a huge variety of software. We already talked about hardware. You can get lost in those things. I'm having a very good wingman. That's my stepson. He's a software engineer. Guess what? Call, email, do some chat, and you probably get the right shortcut to get the right software as fast as possible. And that's where my passion is. Yeah, if it works, let's use it.
Yeah, I think I have exactly the same thing. It's just, do you know that you have that sense of flow, that you're super focused on tinkering and trying things out? It's like building a cabinet. Whenever it's like you've ordered a new cabinet because your old one, it was so rickety, and you're gonna assemble it. You're able to assemble it, but it's a nice moment where all of a sudden an hour flies by, and maybe another hour flies by. It just you get sort of laser focused on essentially putting together a new product, or in this case, a new sort of software configuration for your trainings or workshops. So I'd like to hear a lot about that, sort of your experiences in that respect, which means we're going to move on to sort of the first question. First question is, if you would reverse engineer a little bit, you know where you are right now. We're going to talk about that in a bit. What kind of software did you use also in the past to get to this place? So what kind of software did you use to make online sessions more engaging, more fun, more interesting, less routinious? Go ahead. Who would like to start?
Nico is smiling so much. It's got to be Nico.
Yeah, it's if you wonder why all is irritating, I changed my answer while he was moderating, so so that was a little bit unfair. So I told the beginning, I'm somebody that tries not to use too much technology, too much software, because I want to be skilled in what I'm doing. And in my case, we have a list down. You will see the list is very small. It's really Miro is one of the tools I'm using, etc., etc. But I think this is a different question. What I found out, what is important to have people engaged, is not only the software. Of course, it helps. So when I'm looking to you, it's really like being in a show, and it's really entertaining, and it keeps me motivated. It keeps me looking at the screen, and I think this is one of the secret ingredients. You have to do something that people are not bored. And I'm a very bad participant in remote settings. After 5 minutes, I start doing something else. If you don't keep me attached, not entertained, attached to a topic, I start writing emails, doing something else, because I'm really somebody who thinks he is able to do multitasking, which I'm not as every human being, but I think I can. So you have to keep me focused. So what I do is breaking boundaries, not software part, but what can you do in remote setups which people think it's not possible? So, for instance, I sometimes ask people to stand up during a remote session. And so, okay, I have to move my camera. What does he want to do? And then once I let them march in their office because I want to explain what synchronization means. And I really let them walk in their own home office. The one story, once we realized we are losing the participants, and then I asked my co-teacher to glue a little ball next to her camera. And then when they came back, I did just a short summary, and then, where's the ball? I didn't prepare it because it's hardware. And then I throw it to the camera, and she just take her, and then she continued. And people were, what's going on? What's this for a magic trick? And then we throw the balls to participants. So it's not the software part. It's just be crazy enough, breaking the boundaries you're having, trying elements you have already done before. So I cannot really answer the questions. What do you do with software to make this experience great? For me, it's just do something that at least every 10 minutes something happens. Every 5 to 10 minutes. And this was something also psychologists told us when we tried to move to a remote world. They told us after 10 minutes something must happen: a change of voice, change of person, an exercise, or whatever. And sometimes I'm crazy, so I have enough ideas. The question is only, is my co-teacher also crazy enough?
Can your co-teacher survive?
All right.
How about you, Mark?
So in the early days, I experimented with heaps. These days, I'm kind of boring, right? I fundamentally Zoom, Miro, OBS, Mute Deck. And Zoom's kind of it's a by preference. I like Zoom better than any of the others because of the breakout controls and because there's a lot more APIs for doing integrations with Zoom for sophisticated tricks. I like Miro. Like, yes, there are occasions where you need to use something else, but I like Miro. For me, for a while I was using lots of them in parallel, and I'd switch backwards and forwards between Miro and Mural primarily. But I think for me, in the end, Miro won. And it just keeps getting better and better. Mute Deck is a great little control tool. I don't know if any of you guys use it, but it's I think it cost me like $20. And it's an app that does software control of all of the meeting software. So whether it's Zoom or whatever, and it lets you hotkey controls into the meeting software. So, those times when you're going, oh, maybe if I'm not using a virtual camera, I'm sharing screen, I'm stopping sharing the screen, I am looking at the chat window, whatever the case might be, you can set up hotkeys for that and it just demystifies. Because, I'm sure a lot of you go through this. There are times when one client uses Teams, you hang up on Teams, the next call you're on Zoom, the next call after that you're on Google Meet. And, hotkeys, which then, of course, can go into my Stream Deck, are my friend. And Mutex great for that. And then OBS is like, the one tool to rule them all in terms of fancy, sophisticated stuff. But I'm sure we're going to come back to OBS.
I probably must admit,
sure.
I must admit, Ali, I'm probably the boring guy today because I'm like Mark. I have my ground set like OBS, Microsoft Zoom, Miro. That's it. That's how I'm working. And what I'm looking for, and I'm pulling back the curtain now, I think you have a good list, Ali, of additional software that would spice up remote facilitation. Let's move back the curtain.
Yeah, so you know what? I've tried out a lot of things, and it's very fun to host large events for a large amount of people in using some form of a platform. It requires a lot of preparation, though. I've in the past I had quite good experience to use an environment that was called Maibo. I think by now it's I think discontinued, but essentially it was an online thing where you logged in just via your browser. And your camera became sort of the face of a little flying computer. That's sort of how it looks like sort of a flying monitor. But then you could fly around through certain environments. And then, the closer you were to a certain person, the better you could hear that person. The thing is, that tool unfortunately got discontinued. It was pretty expensive to host something like that. But what it did is, first of all, you lost your first hour of the event because people would log in and they would be, just, oh, this is so cool. I could fly around and I could hear people better if I stand close to them. Just to figure out the tool itself, the technology itself. But what it did is it kept people in the environment. So what do I mean with that? People didn't switch back to email, that popped in, or a Teams message or whatever. They were there in the environment, and therefore, even if people were a bit distracted, they were still talking with other colleagues while being remote. And there's really many tools of them. So Maibo was one of them. I had some experience with a tool called MoodUp, which is Meetup, but then called MoodUp. There it is. The video is over. And I've set that those kind of environments up for PI plannings, for inspect and adapt workshops, for teams that are spread around the world, or during COVID times when people were just really calling in from home, from their kitchen desks. But what I've figured out is that also in trainings, this can work actually pretty well. Imagine that you would have a training where part of your people are remotely available, so they're calling in, and another part is there face to face. There are tools and there are abilities to blend that together pretty nicely. This sort of a little tool called Gather. I'll zoom in a little bit. You'd see me walking around as a small little puppet. It's I think on the stream it's extremely small, but I'll explain what I'm doing over here. Essentially, you're a small little avatar, and you can design, as the moderator, you could design all types of things. You could design a sort of a large shared screen, as if you are a sort of a main presenter, right? Which basically means that everybody would see the shared screen, and even if you get closer by, the shared screen becomes bigger on your screen. But you could also just walk away and have a sort of a breakout room where you could sit at a table, which basically meant that you would be able to have a private conversation just with the people that are at that table, which means that nobody else would hear what you were saying except for the people at that table. So for a conversation during a breakout, that is pretty excellent. And I know that over time, Gather has included all kind of extra techniques. So even in a breakout room, you would be able to share your screen, and only the people at the table would be able to see the shared screen. So it's for PI plannings, this was really cool. But again, it's the first couple of minutes, 15, 20 minutes or whatever, you've lost everyone because everyone's just walking around. They're like, oh, that's nice. I'm going to sit at another team. But the thing is, if you would build that time in, a little bit of time for experimentation, and you would provide sufficient explanation. We always had like a very short explanation of what do you need to do and what can you get out of the tool. Sure, it's fun, it's funny, but you could have private conversations and you have a collective conversation. So you could sit at the table for private and you walk away from the table for the collective. And the simpler you set the room up, because you could really design the room itself, the easier it is for everybody to join. And the nice thing is also you could very quickly search for a person. You can see it over here a little bit on the right side of the screen. I think it's a little bit difficult to see, but there is a sort of a search function. Imagine that the search function contains a huge amount of names of people that are joining. So all of your colleagues, it's very easy to just type the name of your colleague. It pops up, and you could directly have a one-to-one call with the person. Went way faster than searching in Teams and basically doing the same thing, because you need to switch the app. So I've experimented with those kind of environments. They become pretty expensive pretty quickly, but I know that Gather has I think a free version for up to 10 people or up to 25 people. I'm not really sure anymore, but it's pretty fun to just experiment with that if you have the space to do so. But as a matter of fact, in the end, most of us, we present, as a teacher, or if you are a teacher or a facilitator, you present your screen. And whenever you present your screen, it's good to be able to, very quickly annotate things on the screen. And, that just brings us to PowerPoint and having a Wacom tablet, which I have somewhere over here. I just disconnected it from now, but it's this is hardware, I know. But the thing is, with this extremely cheap little thing, I think it was when I bought it, it was, I think, $40 or so. It has Wacom software behind it that you can configure per application. So essentially, look at that. Stephan has exactly the same. By the way, I knew that already because I saw that in your previous list. But it gives you the opportunity to configure the behavior of this small little Wacom pencil for your application. So for instance, whenever I have PowerPoint open, it opens up the configuration, or the Wacom configuration, for PowerPoint, which allows me to just click on this small little pen over here, and it changes the mouse cursor into an actual pen. So I can make annotation, I can draw arrows, and there's another button over here. So there are two buttons on this little thing. If I press that button, that it would erase everything that I drew on the screen. And by doing that, you have the ability to, actually very quickly, point at something, and then keep people's attention like that. And I grew quite to become quite a fan of this Wacom thing. Yeah. So there's a lot out there that
and that's
that
just
we
like
can.
3 tools from your list of about 20, right?
That's true. Yeah, that's true. That's true. What can I say? Having a good timer. I use a tool called AS Timer Pro, which is the thing is I'm using a Mac. This application is a Mac application, and it's I could just use it as I like. Sharing my screen over here, you could see that now I'm navigating through Miro, which is the tool that we use for our podcast. On top of that, I use a tool called Spectacle. So if I move everything away and I would open up Spectacle, it's a little bit super mega small on everyone's screen, but what Spectacle does is it allows me to very quickly sort of move screens or windows into the shared screen and very quickly move it out again. So with a couple of keystrokes.
You can do that with your Stream Deck, right?
I could do that with the Stream Deck indeed, but the thing is, I have most of the time whenever I'm hosting either a workshop or at least a session, my hands are actually close to my laptop. So actually, I have my hands basically, or at least definitely my right hand at the mouse pad or at the keyboard. So with a couple of keystrokes, very quickly switch back and forth. And then I have another, my left hand, because you can see my right hand right now, my left hand I have on the Stream Deck. So I can switch between different scenes, and I could, emphasize what I'm talking about. I'd be able to add a little bit of an audio fragment in there. But the thing is also, you cannot really overdo these kind of things. Because eventually people get really tired of adding all types of little background music. If you're talking about an example that comes from France, you might be able to add a little bit of, background music that is related to France, and you could maybe even add a little bit of a screen right behind you. But the thing is, I think that's a little bit too much, and I'd rather not do that. To eventually people get fatigued of these type of funny extras. If we were talking about OBS scene switching, but because that's basically what you saw happening over here. That's moving from one scene to another. I know that Stephan has that as well. What type of scenes do you use, Stephan? If I can start with you.
Yeah, well, I'm using just a bunch of scenes, a few standard ones. I might start with a waiting room when people come in, so they're not lost in space. I might even add some links here that lead them to the Miro board if needed. I'm having an informal lounge where you can chat. Or then you have like an intro. What are you talking about? What's the training? What's the session? What I'm mainly using is this left screen. I have a second screen with my picture in it. Or if I want to have the concentration on the full screen, I can just change. Hopefully you have some breaks. I'm using a timer as well, so people know when to come back. Sometimes it's reflection time as well, using a timer, so people can get organized, because we're teaching adults and we assume they can organize themselves. And depending on the type of training, end of the session, you thank the people for being here, or if it's a safe course. These are my main sessions I'm using, right? So, yep, that's mainly it. And I'm using those scenes in a way, they're nested scenes. I can configure them with 5 to 10 minutes of preparation time to the respective course and training session. I can highlight, I can activate or deactivate some of the parts of those scenes. Like in here, if I want to make it more formal, I just introduce my logo. I can add some additional information if needed. I can switch it off. So yeah, I'm using OBS in the most easiest way. 5, 6, 7 scenes, moving back and forth. That's enough for the old dog.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you, Stephan. How about you, Mark?
So I think I'd probably add just one little comment there. And again, this is about dynamics. Because if you think about when you facilitate in person, you've got dynamics. I sit down, I stand up, right? I walk from one side of the room to the other. I walk over to a table. Like, what I'm doing as a facilitator is moving the dynamic and actually sending energy signals. And there's a world in which you might look and go, hey, we just saw some stuff that looks pretty like gimmicks. But there's a truth that says even just those little things are sending dynamic shift noises and creating something that's going on for people. So if I thought about OBS, and of course I can't show things off because I can't do my virtual camera or I break the live stream. but I think there's a pretty standard set of views that everybody's going to have if they're using OBS as part of this. And, you know, you might do them to various levels of sophistication as Ali and Stephan have just showed. But I think there's other ones where you can really blow people's minds. And you can take stuff that feels ridiculously hard and actually make it really easy with OBS. So one of my favorites was a couple of scenes I developed. I have a set of facilitation workshops where I teach people facilitation. And of course, some of those are focused on remote facilitation. And I want to teach about observation. So I have this little exercise where I get them to do something on a Miro board. And I am capturing a recording of what's happening on the Miro board and a recording of what's happening on the team's screen and all of their faces. And, you know, it's about a 5-minute exercise. And then I play them back at, you know, ×2 speed, right? So you don't want to sit through the 5 minutes. And I say, okay, you want to think through the lens of a facilitator. You're watching, trying to understand what's happening. Take notes for yourself while you watch in parallel the video of what was happening on the Miro board and the video of what was happening on people's faces. And then we have a discussion about it. And, you know, you get a really interesting insight about how you can use the design of your Miro board to actually generate a lot of information for you as a facilitator. And actually, the better you get at Miro board design, the less you need to rely on people's faces being visible to you. And it's quite interesting watching the two side by side. But I mean, if you think about something like that, and that whole idea that I'm simultaneously taking 2 videos of what's happening while we're live in the workshop and then playing them back to you. And I'm doing that by pressing 2 buttons on my Stream Deck, right? One that says, you know, record these 2 sources, and another that says, play back the top 2 videos in this folder. Right? Being able to do stuff like that and the kind of different models of engagement you can create with people, for me, that's the beauty of OBS, is when you go, I want to do something different right now that's completely out of the box, and I can find a way to do it, but in such a way that I'm not worried it's going to break while I'm trying to do it. You know, oh, sorry, my screen recording didn't work. No, actually, it's like having CI/CD, right? I put the work in, it's there, I press the button.
Yeah. And the thing is, it does require quite a bit of preparation.
Yeah, but then you get to use it
to have everything set up nicely.
You get to use it forever. Like I've used that particular scene and run that particular session an awful lot of times now. So yeah, it was tough. I had to play a little bit to figure it out. But it was also a really interesting way of highlighting a lesson for people about remote facilitation.
Yeah. No, thanks. It's ways to capture the attention, ways to modulate the attention, I guess. Which, you know, there's a lot that you can do with scenes, or at least with the camera feed. But what if you don't use OBS? Nico, I know that you've, I think out of the 4 of us, you're the one who sort of stayed away from OBS as much as possible. You look, you know, just not, let's not have it.
Yeah, it's a contest who's the old dog with Stephan. No, and I just realized by hearing Mark or listening to Mark, it's like continuous development, continuous integration pipeline. It's an investment, and then you can use it. Maybe I never took the time for this investment, because in my case, I did so many remote stuff before remote was popular, and I think OBS was somewhere there, but was a nerd thing. And for a time period, I wasn't a nerd in my life, so I get used to work differently because remote was in the years before COVID important to me. What I'm doing is the one screen is always the one which I'm sharing. So this screen here on this side, it's always clean. There's no emails there, nothing opens there by accident. It's always the screen who is shared. It's like when Mark says in my OBS, I know what I'm sharing. I have two buttons. I have Miro, or I have the slides, or maybe I have the browser or whatever. This screen is the sharing screen, and there's never ever something else on it. And so the important thing, I think, is that you have a kind of a flow when you present. I think it's embarrassing when I say, oh, I have to try out, oh, where is the video I want to show you? Oh, I need this, that. And I think that it's important to have a flow. And I'm able to have a flow without OBS. And by the way, that's why I like Zoom so much. They have a pause button, so you can pause the sharing while you do something else on the screen. So while for the audience it's a natural flow, while I'm talking in the background, I'm preparing the next things I want to share. So while people have a button, I have to do it manually, like in the old days. So really, continuous integration pipeline. It's really a nice word for that. And that's a little bit my trick. So I'm very well prepared. My timer runs on this screen here. Sometimes it's a Miro timer. Sometimes it's the Windows timer. They have also a countdown. So it's always this screen here. And I think with OBS it will be much more easier, but I never had the time for this time investment, and now I'm paying for it. But never change a running system; it works well. So there's a flow in it. So it's possible without OBS. But if you never did the one or the other, I would say use OBS because it's easy installed at the end. It's you will get lost somehow at some points because you're. I realized men are very good in experimenting and trying and gaming and trying instead of just do it. So sometimes I'm really jealous of my wife. She just installs something and use it, and it works. And I'm tweaking it and make more funny thing here and more weather splash, etc. So you can also save time by just doing it and not playing around. But I think we are all a bit children and playing. So summarizing, it works without OBS. You have to just be disciplined. You have to use some tricks and not to interrupt the flow for the audience, and do some things in the back scene.
Yeah, I think that's a very important thing that you're mentioning there. When hosting either a training or a workshop, or at least or maybe just a big event, you're actually always busy with the next thing. Because you're setting things up as such so that whenever the moment comes, you'd be able to show the right screen, the right slide, the right activity, the right whatever it is. And talking about that, because I've been doing exactly the same, let's go to the jingles. And in order to identify who's going to talk about the jingle, I'm going to give Nico the microphone.
Yeah, winner!
Nico, you came up with yet again a fantastic jiggle, which was, if remote facilitation with all kind of software tools would be a cocktail, which one would it be?
Yeah, this time
Nico.
I chose caipirinha, and the reason is if you hate your waiter or your waitress, order a caipirinha because you use damn time for it. You need to take the ingredients, you have to stamp it, you need sugar. It's really not something you mix 2 bottles and you're finished. You really have to do some work, some preparation work. So it's time consuming. That's why I've chosen caipirinha. It's time consuming until you're ready to serve it. We heard it before. It's an investment in time. And the other thing is, I'm very skilled in drinks. But what I know is I think there are 100 variations of caipirinha. So, and extra wishes. Oh no, please, I want to have a caipirosca because I don't like rum. I would like to have more vodka. And please, don't use this. So it's always something caipirinha plus. And sometimes facilitation with remote software sounds like this. Yeah, I want to have this, but maybe a little bit of that and that and that. It's time consuming, but at the end, it's a joy.
Nice. Always talking about alcohol is good. But Stephan, you came up with something similar, I guess.
Yeah, it's not even similar. It's the same. I choose caipirinha as well. It's about this sweet and sour, okay? And Nico, by the way, if you're talking to caipirinha purists or dogmatics, there's only one way to do it. But the
Exactly.
ingredient you can talk about for ages is the cachaça. Which one is the right one? And although cachaça is not cachaça, so you have to find in your context really the right one. What's dangerous about it, it's tasty but seductive, and it can cause headaches, right? So, yeah, I like it, but be aware it's dangerous as well.
We have
Have it
relatives
in
from Brasilia,
moderation.
so
Mark, how about you?
I've got to go with a zombie. And it feels like there's a very strong rum theme to our drink selection. But I had to pick a zombie because that's what your participants are going to feel like if you don't put the work into designing an engaging session.
Nice. I think the thing is also a zombie is an extremely, almost like a lethal drink. It's super strong. It's just all kind of strong liquors mixed up together. It's just a ticking time bomb. So I fully understand. And I chose something similar because I went for Long Island iced tea, which is practically the same. It's just super strong liquor mixed up together, and then you add a little bit of cola or Coke just for color. And it's a very lethal, potentially explosive mix. So it can be very dangerous, making a little bridge to remote facilitation. It can be very dangerous for your wallet. It can be very dangerous with headaches. It can be very dangerous for your agenda. But in moderation, can be really good.
I think it's our first podcast, so you have to be 18 and over, or 21 and over in the States, yeah.
Exactly. So the thing is, let's zoom back. So let's go to what we are using today. What we are, let's say, the software configuration that in a way stuck around. It passed the test of time. What type of software configuration are you using today to make sure that large groups of people are still engaged and that you still remain in control of the session?
Yeah, I would say, and I'm like-minded, and I'm on a par with Mark. It's any functionality that supports breakout sessions, right? Large groups. How do you keep them engaged? How do you kind of control them in a good way? Breakout sessions. That's why I like Zoom. Zoom is my preferred software. I'm still using it. If I have to use MS Teams, oh gosh, okay. You have to find your detours, like on a Miro board, you have additional Google Meet sessions, MS Teams sessions for the breakout sessions. But how do you bring people back on time? If they're not reading your time or if they're not interested, you lose your people, right? I'd say any software that is supportive, bring it in.
Yeah,
it's a very smart one. Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, it's that ability in Zoom to go and breakout for everybody, because that like anytime it's large facilitation, you've got to have breakout groups. You've got to have go to breakout, come back together. Go to breakout, come back together, and it's nice to be able to do a flow of that. But I find, and sometimes you've got to use Teams, and there are ways of achieving breakouts in all of the tools. But if it takes you 4 minutes of chasing everybody around going, come back now, come back now, come back now, then you can't send people to a short breakout because the transaction costs too high. So I think Zoom's a good one. But I think the other thing that I would say, and this was the one that really struck me, is you've got to use visual design, and let's say using Miro, because I'm just going to stay there for the moment. You've got to use visual design to help you understand what's happening in the breakouts. Because this is the thing virtually. If you think about in a physical room, you send people in breakouts, you're at the front of the room, you can see the tables, there's some table where everybody's sitting around, nobody's talking, or they're talking about the weather, and you can go, I can go back, I can go and intervene. And you can actually sense the way in which you need to engage with each table. When you send people to virtual breakouts, you've got no clue. I sent people to breakouts. So, first thing you need is, if you're using Zoom or something else, an ability as a facilitator to visit them, but also do the visual design so that whatever they're doing in their breakout, you can monitor it and you can sense whether they're in flow. And I'm going to share an example quickly. Let me just zoom into it on the screen. So if I go into screen share mode, right, this is an example of an activity from my product training. And the activity, it's actually a simulation, a game, and there's a bunch of cards for events, right? And as a team, they have to play their way through. And, here's the first event. They respond to the first event. That one's done. They go to the second event. They go to the third event. And then as they're doing that, they're moving around things on the playboard in response to it. But I can very easily, if I've got, 6 breakout groups playing it, I can go, how are they going? Oh, this team's up to event number 3 and the team next to them's up to event number 6. Maybe I've got to go and unstick this team, right? So being able to see things changing, right? And at a glance without having to zoom in and read writing. I love designing visuals that say you're going to move things, because as I see you move things, I can understand what's happening for you. And that's super powerful to know, because even when you drop in and out of a breakout, you visit a breakout, the whole group stops. They go, oh, Mark's here. And you might just kill a really important conversation. You can't invisibly walk past it. And so setting yourself up to be able to go, I know how to sense a need, but also to how to leave space and not break flow, I think is really important.
That's really really great. I think having this visualization, knowing what people are doing, it's really an important part. That's why sometimes as a moderator, you have the mouse cursors on the mirror board to see, are they moving at least, what they are doing. And in my case, it's not only software, it's also having a co-facilitator. And the job of the co-facilitator is just seeing what the people are doing. So while you are busy with your OBS stuff or with sharing stuff and talking stuff, the other person is not writing emails or sending offers or whatever, or tenders or whatever, is there to see how are the people behaving. Are they okay? Are their eyes doing something strange? Are they still with us? Or if you're in exercises, looking what's going on the mirror board, because I'm also with Mark. So the last year, I never went to breakout rooms when they didn't ask me to go, because I realized as soon as I go in, I'm the expert in the room, and they start asking me stuff without my need to be asked. So I need some kind of tricks to realize now I have to go in. And I really, when I went into breakout rooms, there's, oh, we just want to call you. Yeah, thankfully you're here. But I realized because the movement stopped, the mouse pointer stopped, the progress stopped, and it's really something you have to master as a facilitator. One thing that I realized before when we talked about Microsoft, you can do still breakouts like in Zoom, but it's really a horror because only the one who created the appointment can do it, and that's usually impossible. If you have external trainers, they are never the creator of the meeting, so they never have the rights to do breakouts, and that's why we externals love more Zoom, because we are more in control. You give the host to them, and then they are able to do anything. In Microsoft, Teams, you're just prisoner in the breakout rooms. You cannot do nothing. Stephan.
Yeah, and I think, Nico, you just mentioned something that has nothing to do with software. Pair work really helps in any course, any training. Even if I'm doing on-site stuff, I like working in pairs, or even having 3 people in the room. One is facilitation, one is kind of moderating, directing, and the other one is just observing, right? Mm-hmm. And it is huge if software helps, or as Mark has said, if your CI/CD pipeline is so good that you just can push buttons, there you go. That's a high level of maturity. But even then, I would suggest have your wingman, your wing woman with you. It's a huge benefit.
And with that, having a back channel only with your co-hosts and helpers. So I usually have a Slack channel, which is not in Zoom, not in the environment you're training, in a different environment, a back channel, which when it beeps, it's important. You have to look there because your co-pilot is saying something to you, or they want to reach out to you.
Yeah, and there's many alternatives in for people that are using Microsoft Teams a lot. There are ways to add a tag to a person, or actually to add a tag to many people. So you'd have many people who are a Scrum Master, which means if you type, @ and then your tag, which for me often is SM, Scrum Master, I can send a message to all Scrum Masters in one go. So in the top left corner of their screen, they would see that there is all of a sudden a new notification for all Scrum Masters coming from me. Whenever things become a little bit more analog, so we have a hybrid situation. I've also been working with sort of weird in-between tools, such as chronograph.io, which is a free-to-use website, chronograph.io, and it is a synchronized stopwatch and timer. In certain environments, I could create a stopwatch. There it is. You can see that it's running. But if I scroll a little bit down, there is a view-only link that I can share with a QR code even. There it is, that I can share with whomever needs to see the timer. I see that Nico is already. If Nico would have scanned that QR code, he would go to a website where he could see the timer. I've also been able to use these kind of things. I've ordered these simple kitchen timers. This was a hybrid PI planning for the people that I was working with. It was the first time. And I just wanted to have everybody back for the Scrum of Scrums and for the PO sync. And these things, they cost, I don't know, $3 each or so. And I've used them so many times. So whenever we were all in a plenary session, we would just, sit together and be like, all right, let's set the timer. And we would go into our breakouts, and in 3, 2, 1, we press start. And, the timer would eventually go off whenever it would be time to join for a PO sync or for a Scrum of Scrums. And they would take these kind of things with them and, put them somewhere on the table. They would completely forget about them. But then all of a sudden it beeps. And they would know, oh, yes, indeed, I've been fully focused with my team, but the thing is beeping, so I need to go for a second. And there are so many of these small little things, what you mentioned in Zoom, you have the ability to end the breakouts for all. In Teams, you have something similar, but then without a timer functionality. But it's you would like to help the large audience to nudge them, let's say, to the next step as well as possible. And if you use Miro or Mural or all of the other equivalents, they have timers built in.
Which
works
pretty
well.
Everybody's great at ignoring those timers.
Exactly, they completely ignored. But at least they are there.
Like I used to use the confetti in Mural, and it would rain confetti all over the screen when the timer went off. And I'm like, surely people will pay attention to that. Nah.
Nobody cares.
So my trick was just to make a big poster over the area they are working and saying, now come back, please. I had to do this with Microsoft Teams. Lock this thing, and then they cannot work anymore. And after 5 minutes, they're back.
Yep.
Forcing people to get back to the main channel. Talking about forcing, last thing for today, we're also forced by company policies. We're also forced by legal implications. We're using tools that are not made by the companies that they're used in, and therefore are not hosted at the companies that they're used in. But whenever we use these type of tools, such as Miro, Mural, Klaxoon, Microsoft Whiteboard, and so forth, these tools are going to contain quite some sensitive information. Roadmap items, it's brainstorming about technology, IP. So I can imagine that you'd had some difficulties with that. So would you be able to share sort of the ways that you've been able to not so much circumvent, but at least comply with these security issues?
Yep. For me, the first thing is do a smoke test with the one who hires you. Just say, there's the link to the Mira board. There's the link to Kahoot, whatever we are doing, Mentimeter, and let's see if it works. And then before the workshop starts, I have homework for them. Like put an icon of you, an avatar of you on this Miro board, and put a pin on the map where you are from. And with that, you realize, is everybody now capable of go there? Because once the client unfortunately used her private laptop to go in and do the smoke test, and then we were starting the workshop, we realized, okay, it doesn't work from the client side, from the firewall side. And then I had to switch to something else. And I was happy I did it at least the weekend before. So smoke test in my case and dry runs is something like that. And the other thing is having your own backup systems, like for Miro, a concept board, which is not nice, but it works at least. To Zoom, you have something else, Teams, WebEx, whatever, always having a backup tool, smoke test and homework. It's my solution.
Thank you. How
Just
about you,
to add a few things, like most of the times people are using company laptops, desktops with a VPN. Check that one. Could they really deactivate or not? And depending on that, it's again smoke testing. I like it because my plumber does it, and it's over 100 years old, this practice. Let's do it. I would summarize it like design for the smallest common denominator. So what I try to do on OBS, on my tools, what does really work based on experience? It's 100% proof. And on top of that, like Nico said, know your customer, right? If you don't know the customer journey, if you don't know what the user needs, you're probably doomed to have in your opinion, with an inside-out view, your best session set up, but it doesn't work.
Yeah,
Thank you. Mark?
With enough like experimentation, it's amazing what you can achieve almost anywhere, right? And I've seen people use the Microsoft Teams planner view as a post-it capture and sorting tool. I've seen people use the digital whiteboard in Confluence to do their PI planning. It is amazing what you can do when you hunt hard enough and you have enough ingenuity, and it's worth the effort, right? Because if it's too hard and you go, I'm just going to live without, then what you're probably doing is living without an amazing workshop or an amazing training event. Mm-hmm. But I think also you've got to recognize sometimes that if the constraints are too big, maybe you've got to walk away from the workshop. I've had, for example, in Australian government, they blackballed any of the digital whiteboards. Right? So if you wanted to do virtual workshops with any federal government agency, it was the Microsoft Teams whiteboard or nothing. And I said, I can't subject people to a 2-day safe training course where the only thing that they get other than PowerPoint is the Microsoft Teams whiteboard. I can't do it because I can't deliver a great training course.
Indeed.
So, recognize. And sometimes it's, perhaps I shrink my ambition, or I break a workshop up into multiple parts so that it's not multiple hours. But it's also sometimes you just got to recognize when to walk away because you can't achieve what you need to provide the right experience.
Well, talking about walking away, actually more sort of what we are going to have as a takeaway, because we're ending the show. I'd like to hear what your sort of takeaways are after deep diving into the topic of software for remote for facilitation. And I'm going to start with you, Nico.
Yep, because software affects everybody. So in the hardware session before, we realized it affects you. So your screens, you etc. But when you use software, it affects others. We had just heard the story from Mark. It affects others. So make sure that the software works for everybody, and be sure you're skilled in the software you're using. And sometimes do less, but safe.
Nice. Thank you. How about you, Stephan?
Well, I would say sweeten your remote facilitation with software, but leave a lasting taste.
Oh, nice. Nice. Mark?
I feel so sad. There's nothing pithy about mine. It's surprising what's possible when you lean in.
Yeah. And think I'm going to conclude with exactly that. Diving fully into this topic will transform you into, first of all, someone that doesn't have any time anymore for anything else. Is completely focused on buying the right cable and putting the right configuration into certain tools like OBS. Therefore, losing a lot of time whatsoever. But you're turning yourself into a one-person studio, and I don't know. That's quite cool.
All right. Well, thank you, Ali. It's time to de-geek next week. Stephan has the reins, and we are into value stream identification challenges and approaches. So, we can promise you there will be no strange videos, cameras, or anything else.
Not at all.
But I'm sure that Ali at least will find a way to put something strange into a discussion about value stream identification.
I'll make some stupid jokes or something like that.
Looking forward to it.
Until next week.